This video is about how to choose a funeral director in 8 simple steps. Hi, I'm Dean Thomas, Managing Director of CFS Funeral Services. So the first step is to take some time. Firstly, if the death was a coroner's call out because it was a sudden death, there's no obligation to use the funeral director who came to attend. They were simply under contract to the coroner. The other thing is to actually do a bit of research, talk with people, find out what their personal experiences have been, go and visit the funeral home, find out how clean it is, how comfortable it is, how welcoming they are, and ask for a fully itemised written estimate. If they don't offer this, they're in breach of the codes of conduct and the law. Also check who owns the funeral home. The name above the door isn't always the people who own the business. Many businesses have changed hands. Check, is it part of a group? Is the person who you've dealt with previously, do they still own the business? And just basically make sure that you feel comfortable with everything that you've been given. So the second part is to look for any hidden extras. All funeral directors now have to display their prices on websites and in the shop window. What you need to do is make sure that the price that you've given includes what you actually need and that you're not going to be upsold on items that you may not want. Ask for a fully itemised written estimate for you to take away and have a price list to take away as well. Make sure all third-party costs are included so that there's no hidden extras, and these should be the same whatever funeral director you actually decide to choose upon. The thing to remember though is that the longer it takes you to make a decision, the longer the time before the funeral can actually take place. The third one is to use recommendations. The most important thing is to actually speak with people who've recently had to use funeral directors. Think of people who've recently been to a funeral service and seen the standards of the delivery of the funeral service and find out from them. Many review sites can include fictitious reviews or reviews from people who are family members. The best experience is to speak to people who've actually used the funeral director and actually been on the funeral service to see how the staff interact with people attending the service and get first-hand experience. Don't just rely on online reviews. The fourth question is to ask the location of the funeral home and ask about home visits. From our experience, you will be more comfortable if the funeral director comes out to you. That means that you're in familiar environment, you can have family members or friends around, and you're in a more comfortable setting. It's important though that somebody does go and visit the funeral home, find out how clean it is, how well it's presented, is it somewhere that you would feel comfortable when you go in to see your relative. Also ask where the deceased will be prior to the funeral service. It doesn't always mean that they will be in the funeral home. Some of the big groups use hubs or central mortuary facilities, and people are not always in the funeral home. Some independent funeral directors subcontract important parts of the services out, and again, the person who you think is resting in the funeral home might be with another funeral director. These are all important questions to ask before you make your final decision. So question 5 is to make sure that the funeral director can provide the service that you need. At the moment, there's lots of funeral directors advertising on television. The reality is the majority of them are not actually funeral directors. They're crematorium operators, they don't have funeral homes, they're call centre based. So the important part is to find out, is there a funeral home that you can actually visit your relative if you wish? Can the funeral director deliver all of the services? Do they own their own cars, or are they relying on other people to provide the limousines? Do they have their own staff, or are they subcontracting out? Do they have restrooms where you can go in and sit with your relative? Can they organise things like your flowers, orders of service? Can they offer a range of coffins? Do they give different types of service, or is it one funeral that fits everybody? So just think of everything that you need, ask the question, and don't make any assumptions. The other thing is to make sure that you have what you actually want, that you're not upsold on coffins, told that you need a church service when you don't want one, and make sure you get exactly what you want. Question number 6 is to ask about when you will be required to pay for the funeral. As we've already discussed, you should have a full written estimate, and within that you should also have the terms and conditions of business with that funeral director. Most funeral directors will ask for a deposit up front to cover the disbursements that we make out. That may be a fixed deposit, it may be a percentage of the total funeral fee, or it may be disbursements. Increasingly, in some parts of the country, funeral directors, like other businesses, are asking for full payment up front. The final account, ask when that will be sent out to you and ask what the payment terms are on that. Most funeral directors, it's 21 or 28 days. A funeral director who offers credit must have a consumer credit license, and to do that they must complete a credit check on you, and you'd have to have a finance agreement in place. Most funeral directors accept card payment, bank transfers. Most now we try not to handle cash because of money laundering. Number 7 is check that the funeral director is a member of a recognised trade association. Funeral directors are unregulated. If they're not a member of one of the 2 main trade associations, NAFD, National Association of Funeral Directors, or SAFE, Society of Allied Independent Funeral Directors, there is nobody who's actually inspecting that business independently. There's no code of conduct for them to behave to, and there's nobody checking behind the scenes. Also, importantly, in the unlikely event that something goes wrong, you've got no comeback, because with both trade associations they have professional conduct arms that would investigate and mediate on any complaints. The majority of the direct cremation providers you see advertised on television are not members of either of the trade associations as full funeral directors, because they don't have funeral homes. So the important part there is to ask who's actually taking care of your relative before the cremation. And finally, choose somebody who you trust and feel comfortable with. This is the person who ultimately is going to be sitting with you, working through all of your questions, ensuring that the funeral that is delivered on the day is exactly what you want, and the person who's going to be there on the day supporting you, directing yourselves, your family and attendees, and after the service then ensuring that you're still fine and that everything that you wanted has taken place. We hope you found this video informative and has given you a few questions to ask. If you need any further assistance or help, please telephone us, email us, inquiries@cfs.wales, visit our website cfs.wales.